Today I'm going to showcase my LaserCutCard Necron Terrain that I made for this year's Terrain Square Block competition. It's coming right up.
Necrons!
Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. And if you're new to the channel and you want to keep up to date with the Wonders of Warhammer 40k, then please subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss an upload. And remember, I upload on a Monday, Thursday and Saturday every week. Okay, so if you don't know what the Terrain Square competition is all about, it's a competition to build terrain that I'm running on the channel right now. You have until April the 12th to build and paint a line of sight blocking piece of terrain. And then there's going to be prizes for the winners. Top prize is a start collecting box set that I'm going to be giving away to the winner. And then second prize is for 4 base readies that's being donated by Luke's APS along with some glue. I'll put a link to Luke's APS's channel in the description below, along with a link to the competition information video. I'm also going to link you up to the LaserCutCard website, was where I purchased the pieces of terrain that I built and painted alongside everyone for the competition. So let's go table down and have a look at my finished pieces of terrain. Okay, so here we are. What I'm going to do first is run over how I painted these pieces of terrain. I've been asked about that by my subscribers, and then we're going to have a look at this terrain on my board all set up with some of my other terrain. Now, in terms of the painting, what I did first is I went in and I primed everything with a can of very cheap matte black primer which I got from Wilkinson's. Once that was done, I then went over and I primed the whole thing with Games Workshop Caliban Green. Yes, an expensive spray can, however I wanted the paint colour to match in with my board. In the great scheme of things, it wasn't really that expensive. I've ended up with some great looking terrain and I haven't really spent that much money. Now, once that was all dry, I then went in and I dry brushed everything with the Warpstone Green, and then I dry brushed everything with Mute Green. Once that was all done, I started work on the metal sections. First of all, I went into these big areas and I dry brushed them with Ironbreaker, and then I dry brushed them with Lead Belcher. All of the dry brushing was done on a very big soft brush. And then I started work on the symbols. Now, the symbols, how I do them to match my board, to be fair, are quite tricky to do. However, you could make them a lot simpler. Now, the way I do my symbols is I go in and I paint on the inside of there. First of all on the bottom, then I get the brush and I go down the edges here of every single piece, turning them around. Very time consuming and, to be fair, a little bit messy. So once I'd finished doing that, I had to then go in and cover up the messy sections, first of all with some black paint and then with the Caliban Green. I find going straight in with Caliban Green over the silver just doesn't cover very well. So once I've done that, I then re-dry brush just over the symbols with the colours that I first dry brushed with, and that was then done. Now, on the Ziggurat itself, there was these little symbols just on the side here which just don't really match up to anything else which I've done previously, or indeed on these pieces of terrain. And the reason for that is there's actually an open section at the end of the symbol, so it would look really odd if I painted that silver inside. So I decided to do something totally different to my normal pieces of terrain. As I said, nothing else has it, so why not? So I went in, I just dry brushed these up and made them glowing. So I used exactly the same paints as I previously mentioned, but I also went in at the end with Nurgling Green. I went in with a slightly heavier dry brush, and I'm really happy with the results. In actual fact, if you were painting this and you didn't want the silver or gold symbols like on my pieces of terrain, this would actually look really good if you did this glow effect, and to be fair, it'd be a lot easier than how I painted them. So that's how I painted them, and I think they look really cool. Now, if you've watched the previous videos, you'll know that these pieces of terrain are pretty interchangeable. I'm going to do some size comparisons for you in a minute. I've got Magnus all ready to go to show you the size. But first of all, I just want to show you what they look like when you interchange them. So I built mine so that these little obelisks come off and they go on top of these sentinels to give me some medium-sized obelisk. Very, very cool. And then this big obelisk comes off and goes on the top. Now potentially, because I magnetised mine here, I could put one of these or something else on the top. Now that is a very cool looking piece of terrain. Now the actual ziggurat itself also comes off here, and you're able to put a monolith in that section, or just use these as extra pieces of terrain. So you've got lots and lots of options with these pieces, which is just really awesome. Right, let's set my table up, have a look at them with some of my other terrain and do some more size comparisons. Okay, so here is my table with some of my Necron terrain on it, just trying to showcase these things off. I think they look absolutely fantastic. I've got my array of different sized obelisks with, of course, the ziggurat in the middle. Now I do have this obelisk here which I've painted differently, so of course that's silver with the glowing green effects, so that's another idea of how you could paint these. Right, first of all let's get the monolith on the ziggurat and have a look how cool that looks. Okay, so there you go, there is the ziggurat with the monolith. How cool does that look? Now to be fair, it would probably look slightly better if I'd painted the bottom section there silver, however it wouldn't match my board, and I'm probably not going to use it with the monolith on that much, but it is an option. Right, let's do a size comparison now, and we're going to get Magnus out. Right, there is Magnus. So as you can see, this ziggurat is actually pretty big. Now, can you hide Magnus behind this? Let's see if we can find out. Okay, so of course his wingtips are going to be sticking out. So at distance, you could be able to see him if he's standing in that position. However, if you get close and you're on the floor, you are going to be able to hide Magnus in that area. However, if you rotate him around a little bit, so he's angled something like that, and potentially, certainly, at distance, you are going to be able to hide him. So yeah, that is actually a pretty big piece of terrain. It's going to be a bit awkward to hide some of the bigger stuff, but I think that's exactly what terrain should be like. You don't want to make it too easy for the big stuff, but you want to give them at least the chance of maybe hiding it under the right circumstances. So that is my Necron terrain all finished. I really love it, but what do you think? Let me know in the comments box below, and if you're not subscribed yet, start now. Hit the Edic Beer icon, and if you want to see more videos about the rest of my Necron terrain, then check out those two videos just there. Beam me up!